Hey, Shalom. I like to give all praises, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Akakwadash. I like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, salutations, and blessings to the elect who firmly believe on Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Now, I'm not sure what I'm going to entitle this lesson just yet. However, as you can see in this image here, this is Kathy Hochul, and she had made a comment, I believe, on Twitter, and it reads, great meeting with Jay-Z and Rock Nation leadership yesterday to discuss our work to get all New Yorkers vaccinated and to ensure our criminal justice system is a true justice system. So here it is. They pulling the aces. They're pulling their aces out. You got some Jake out there that's still rebellious. However, they need a public figure, amongst the nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, who has a lot of influence to persuade you to take their devil's juice, so to speak, to take their jabs, and Jay-Z sold his soul a long time ago. He has a song called The Evils, in which, he was showcasing or verbally indicating of him selling his soul and things of that nature. And, he's pretty much limitless, when it goes to selling your soul and things of that nature. And I believe when you check it out, he dates back to a Haitian, so-called Haitian, which is the Levites, and he deals heavily, with that witchcraft and things of that nature, because I believe on one of the songs on the album 444, he said, I told my wife, the spiritual shit really works, and we know he's talking about that left hand energy, that left hand side. So Jay-Z's a billionaire, which is no real money. And he has a lot of influence. He's the godfather of hip hop. He calls himself Hova, Jehovah, so calling himself pretty much like the God MC, or people looking up to him as if he is a god. So they had to pull their aces out of the deck, to persuade, more 2/3, to pretty much get that jab, because we have the hopeful elect. It's fuck Jay-Z. It's fuck Edom. It's fuck their jabs. Part of my French, but it's just how I feel. Fuck Babylon the Great. The Heavenly Father has a kingdom of heaven that is about to be established, and that's where the elect's mindset is geared towards, and Esau, he's there's nothing new under the sun, and what he's doing now with Jay-Z is tactics that he did in the past. And I'm actually about to bring out an account, to where this particular tactic was done in the scriptures, right? Let me get First Maccabees chapter 2. Start at verse 17, with Mattathias. Right. Now this is the time to where, I believe it was Antiochus Epiphanes. He was attempting to force, the Jews to eat and consume swine's flesh, right? So let's get into it. This is First Maccabees chapter 2. I want to start at let's start at verse 12. This First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 12. It says, "And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it." This is pretty much when, the Greeks at the time, was bringing destruction upon Israel. The sanctuaries and everything was getting destroyed. They were profaning, their heritage. They were forcing them to break the Heavenly Father's commandments, right? It's verse 13. It says, "To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer?" It says, "Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore." It says, "In the meanwhile, the king's offers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler." Right? Now, this is where the attempt of beguiling begins. It says, "Thou art a ruler and an honorable man, and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren." So that's how these Edomites present day view Jay-Z. You know, he's an honorable, he's a great man. A lot of people look up to him, right? It says, now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. You know, fulfill the king's commandment. Now, modern day, what is the king's commandment? Present momentarily is taking that devil's juice, you know, being jabbed up with that devil's juice. Primarily is going to be that MOTB, in which we know to be the microchip, the charagma, as spoken on in Revelation 13 to 16, all the way down to 18. It says, like as all, but however, we see the jab as a prelude, you know, to the mark, to the charagma. It says, like as all the heathen have done, yet and the men of Judah also. You know, so you had, you know, sellouts, 2/3 back then, you know, fulfilling the king at that time's commandment, which is consuming swine's flesh, right? Eating pork. It says, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem, so shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, right? So he's pretty much telling him, like, look, if you can fulfill the king's commandment in eating swine's flesh, guess what? You're going to be in the number of the king's friends. Meaning what? You're going to have benefits. You know, you're going to have leeway. You're going to have perks and bonuses. You're going to be rewarded with money. You're going to be rewarded with women. You're going to be rewarded with property, assets, right? It says, so shalt thou. So this is the opportunity that, you know, the officers of the king was presenting unto Mattathias, because what? He was an honorable man. Now Jay-Z been sold out, so he been joined forces with the kings of today, which is these elites of Edom, right? Well, the lower lesser, not he ain't kicking it with the Rothschilds, but you know, those who are lesser luminaries. Right? It says, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards, you know, money, perks, bonuses. It says, then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away everyone from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. You know, and that's how you're supposed to maneuver. That's what Jay-Z was supposed to say, you know. That's what Jay-Z was supposed to say, but, you know, he sold the soul to the devil and the price was cheap, you know, and he will be destroyed. Essentially, he's not getting on, you know, one of those space stations to escape the nuclear blast, man. Lord willing, the Lord's going to have his ass burnt to smithereens by way of them ICBMs, man, those missiles, you know. It says, God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or on the left. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which is at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Now, this was a sellout nigga. You know, he was a sellout nigga. You know, he couldn't take the heat nor the pressure, so he went to go consume that flesh. You know, make that sacrifice, breaking the law, statutes, commandments of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. It says, which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar, and that's righteousness, through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. He put his ass to death right upon that altar, man. He became the sacrifice. You know, he became the sacrifice. You know, let me get another account, right? So this pretty much proves, you know, that this is nothing new, that Esau is going to use one of our own, you know, a fellow Israelite to what? Persuade the rest of Israel, you know, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians to what? Take that jab, take that Maxine, get burned by Maxine. And then it's going to come a point in time to where they're going to force and mandate the charagma, in which we know to be the microchip, written and spoken on in Revelation 13 and 16 on down to 18. Right? Now, this is another point to where Esau attempted, you know, to use a prominent figure amongst Israel, you know, to beguile the rest of the flock, you know, to fall into mischief. This is 2 Maccabees 6 and 18. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man of a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh. But he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth and came of his own accord to the torment. You know, so he was willing to die than to eat swine's flesh. But now people order swine's flesh, pork, you know, on their bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches. They eating it for breakfast as if it's a delicacy, you know. They eating pork chops, you know, they eating chitlins. They eating madness, man. Poison, you know. However, in our history, there was a man by the name of Eleazar. He was choosing rather to die gloriously than to consume that bullshit. And that's what they force fed us in slavery going back towards the back in the times of the 1700s. It says, verse 20, as it behooved them to come that are resolute to stand out against such things as are not lawful for love of life to be tasted. But they that had the charge of that wicked feast, for the old acquaintance they had with the man, taking him aside, besought him to bring flesh of his own provision. So they said, look, man, you can eat lawful flesh. You can eat chicken. You can eat lamb. You can eat goat. You know, you can eat beef. You know, this is what they're bringing to the table. You know, it says, bring your own flesh of his own provision, such as was lawful for him to use, and make it as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king. So he said, you can eat lawful meat, but just tell the people that it's pork, so they can eat pork. You know, that's the tactics that the so-called white man comes with. You know, here it is. Jay-Z probably don't even got the jab, you know, but he's going to tell the rest of New York to get the jab, you know, because he's a wicked nigga. It says that in doing so, he might be delivered from death, and for the old friendship with them find favor. So that's what this devil wants to do. He wants to get you to go off according to his way and go against the way of the Heavenly Father and his son, Yahweh Shai, you know, just so you could be a friend of the devil. Why would we want to be friends with this devil? The scriptures say, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished, man. So what sense do it make to live it up with this devil when the Lord's getting ready to take his ass out? That's why the scriptures speak upon, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of that time, and the fear of the Lord is his treasure. So when you know what time you're living in and you know what's about to happen, that's going to allow you to move accordingly, present day and in the moment. It says that in doing so, he might be delivered from death, for the old friendship with them find favor. So he said, man, look, you can eat lawful meat, and guess what? You won't die, but just tell your congregation that it's pork. And this is what he did. Eleazar, verse 23, but he began to consider discreetly, and as became his age, and the excellency of his ancient years, and the honor of his gray head, whereon was come, and his most honest education from a child, or rather the holy law made and given by God. Therefore he answered accordingly, and willed them straightways to send him to the grave. So he said, man, look, I've been an Israelite all my life. I've been following the law, statutes, and commandments of the Heavenly Father Yahweh all my life. You know, I have notoriety amongst my congregation, you know, and he's thinking about all the, the work he put in for the Lord. You know, he told him, man, you put me to death. And that's what you call integrity, man, in which the sellouts of our nation today don't have. Like the scriptures say, the gates thereof languish. The gates is talking about the leaders of our people languish, meaning what? They're weak. They all sell out to this devil. You know, we don't have the only voice amongst Israel is the prophets, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, beginning with our apostles and the elders at Great Millstone to the sincere Akim on down. We're the voice of the Heavenly Father, man. You know, it says verse 24, for it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise, to dissemble, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 old and 10, he was 90, were now gone to a strange religion. You know, 80, one score is 20. 20 times 4 is 80, plus the 10, that's 90. It says we're now going to a strange religion. So, how would it look, of a man of the Lord that you look up to, you've been learning from, taking a jab, or taking a chip? That don't make sense, man. That don't make sense. That don't make sense. So it says, and so they, through mine hypocrisy and desire to live a little time and a moment longer, should be deceived by me, and I get a stain to mine old age and make it abominable. And that's how we got to look at it. We've been putting in all this work for the Lord for all of these years. What does it look like taking a jab now, or taking a microchip now, just to live a little while longer, because the Lord is about to destroy America. So what would it benefit or profit to take Satan's devices, take this Edomite's devices, the so-called white man, just to live a little while longer. Because if you do take the microchip, the Lord is going to destroy you. Revelation 14:9 and 10 tells us that. It's going to destroy you, you know? So why would we want to add a stain to the work that we put down for the Lord? It says, verse 26, for the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men, yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive nor dead. You know, and that's the fear Yahweh, you know. That's who we choose to fear through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. We fear Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. We fear what he can do unto us as opposed to man. Because man can't do unless what the Heavenly Father give us permission to do. We of the hopeful elect understand that. It says, wherefore now manfully changing this life, I will show myself such an one as mine age requireth, and leave a notable example to such as be young to die willingly and courageously for the honorable and holy laws. And when he had said these words, immediately he went to the torment, you know. And that's the mentality and the spirit and the faith and integrity that we got to have as prophets and men of the Lord of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. You know, these scriptures were written for our learning, present day. You know, if he didn't stand firm, you know, and held his integrity, where would we be present day? We wouldn't really have nothing to look back. We wouldn't have nothing to look forward to, as opposed to men who went through adversity and overcame it. You know, that's why Yahweh Hashem Yahushua had these situations happen. You know, for we labor not for ourselves only, but for those who also seek learning. So we not only go through tribulation and hell for ourselves, but for those who's going to end up in the same stead, to show you that it's what possible to overcome through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. It says, they that let him changing the goodwill, they bear him a little before into hatred, because the foresaid speeches proceeded as they thought from a desperate mind. But when he was ready to die with stripes, he groaned and said, it is manifest unto the Lord that have the holy knowledge that whereas I might have been delivered from death, I now endure sore pains in body by being beaten, but in soul am well content to suffer these things because I fear him. And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of a noble courage and a memorial of virtue, not only unto young men, but unto all his nation. You know, we're a part of that nation, man. And it's beautiful, man, to be a part of this truth, man. If you ain't a part of this truth, you missing out, man. You corny, you lame, you played out. And you're going to be destroyed right alongside with America, man. Straight up and down. Straight up and down. This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 12. Let me start at verse 10. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. These are the gems that we have. You got Jake out here that don't even know that they have an enemy out here. Your enemy is the so-called white man. Esau, Edom. That's your enemy. It says, though he humbled himself. That's right, he humbled himself. He said, look, I got rewards for you. You could be a friend of mine. Hey, you want to lay up with this woman? You want to drive this car? I got you. He's humbling himself. Then he might start complimenting you on your looks. He might compliment you on the status that you have amongst your people. He's humbling himself. So you can lower your defenses. Once you drop your guard, it's easier to get knocked out. That's all he's doing. He's trying to get you to drop your guard. It says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. Thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. That's right. His wickedness is going to show forth, man. You know, his wickedness is going to show forth as time goes on. Now you see what's happening in New York. You know, certain people who's in the health field, or if you're a teacher, you're mandated to get it. If not, you're going to be fired. So what? His deviled horns is beginning to show. You're seeing the devil for who he is, man. Who the Heavenly Father created him to be. Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words, and he be pricked therewith. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or in such as come nigh wild beasts? So one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? So we're not going to pity, you individuals, who take that jab and who take that microchip, man. Because, you listen to the devil. You listen to the devil, man. And he got your ass. He got your ass in derision. Here it is. The prophet's been telling you not to consent with this devil, with his wicked devices. and yet you do it anyway. So you gotta deal with the judgment and the destruction that comes right alongside with it. With the bones of his youth. I think it's Job 20:10. Let me see. Yeah, this is Job chapter 20, verse 10. It says, his children shall seek to please the poor, and his hand shall restore their goods. And that's all this devil attempts to do by pleasing the poor, to lower their defenses. You know, he hands out WIC. He hands out Section 8. You know, he hands out these jabs, you know, and the benefits that come with taking a jab. He say, I believe in New York, they can hand it out $100 if you take the jab. You know, he's seeking to please the poor. And it says, verse 11, it's the point. It says, his bones are full of the sin of his youth. You know, so what this devil is doing with Jay-Z, that's an example of his bones are full of the sin of his youth. You know, which shall lie down with him in the dust. It says, though wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hide it under his tongue, though he spare it and forsake it not, but keep it still within his mouth. That's right. That's like, here it is. He's talking to you with a razor blade under his tongue. You know, it's a lot of guys, you know, in the 90s, they'll have razor blades tucked under their tongue, you know, and it's very popular within the prison systems and Rikers Island and the county jails. You know, they'll be having a full-blown conversation with you with a razor blade under their tongue, you know, and at any given moment, they could slice you with that razor blade, you know. That's Esau. That's the so-called white man. Look, it says, though he spare it and forsake it not, but keep it still within his mouth. You know, yet his meat and his bowels is turned. It is the gall of ass within him. You know, so this devil promotes nothing but lies, deceit, and destruction, man. And guess what? He's going to use, you know, he's going to use our own people against us to get us to attempt to take us down by way of his devices, you know. So like the scriptures say, they that seek unto him shall be destroyed right alongside with him. You know, and that's just what's going to happen through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. You know, so we living in that time, man. You know, Esau is showing his horns, man, and he's going to use people, you know, of a prominent figure to, you know, promote his agenda. You know, he used Juvenile, you know, get the jab back from that song, Back That Thing Up, you know, the rapper Plies, you know, he's using Chris Rock, you know, he's using all of these guys to, you know, forward his agenda, but, you know, it's going to be to no avail. That's why the Lord kept a cluster of grape who shall not be touched, man. And that's the elect, you know. Tender mercies of the wicked are cruel, you know. So we got to always keep that in mind, you know, that this devil means nothing good. Here it is. He ain't never give you nothing free. Anything free is set out to destroy you, man. Not only that, he's paying you to receive destruction. So you should already know not to take it, man, if he's paying you to take it, you know, and he charges you for everything else, but he's willing to pay you to receive some poison. Come on, man. You know, so Lord willing, you know, this lesson was edifying, you know, unto the elect. You know, I like to give all praises, glory, and honors to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim HaKadosh. I like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and blessings to the elect. Shalom. Shalom. Stay strong, Akim. Shalom.